Picture this, you're online, just doing your thing. Maybe you're trying to follow a recipe, or a coding tutorial, or just browsing around. And then, all of a sudden, stuff just stops working. Images are broken, links go nowhere, and you start thinking, is this site broken? Well, what if I told you the internet isn't broken? It's being changed, on purpose. And this right here, this gets to the very heart of it. It's that jarring moment when a part of the internet you use all the time just feels broken. You're just trying to learn something, and a key piece of the puzzle is gone. This single moment of frustration for millions of people was the trigger for a huge shift in how we use the web. So, what in the world is going on? All across the web, people started reporting the same thing. Sites that worked just fine yesterday are suddenly blocked today. Now, your first thought is probably, it's a technical glitch, a server must be down. But here's the kicker. This isn't a bug. It's a deliberate feature of a new emerging internet. The cause, it turns out, isn't a technical error at all. Nope. It's a direct result of new legislation, like the Online Safety Act in the UK. Now, these laws were created with the goal of regulating online content and protecting people, but the way they're being put into practice is having some really immediate and very noticeable side effects. So basically, these laws put websites in a really tough position. To follow the rules, they have to prove you're old enough to see whatever's on their site. And for a lot of them, that means either just blocking users from entire countries or forcing you to prove your age by uploading your personal ID to some third-party verification company you've probably never even heard of. But here's the thing. People didn't just roll over and accept this new, broken internet. Faced with all these roadblocks and intrusive ID checks, users fought back, and they did it fast, turning to a technology that lets them hop right over these new digital fences, kicking off what we can only call the Great VPN Surge. And listen, this wasn't some slow, gradual change. Oh no, the very moment these laws kicked in and people started hitting that first digital wall, the rush to find a workaround was immediate, and it was on a massive scale. Just get a load of this number. An 1,800% spike in signups for just one VPN provider, Proton VPN. And this was over a single weekend in the UK. That's not a trend, that's a digital stampede. It just goes to show you how profoundly these laws changed what people did online, literally overnight. And the proof was everywhere. In the UK, the Apple App Store charts were suddenly just flooded. Half of the top 10 free apps were VPNs, tools designed to get around these new rules. People were hitting a block, figuring out what was going on, and installing a solution in as little as 15 minutes. The internet was teaching itself a new trick in real time. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Because while the whole thing started with simple annoyance, fixing broken images, the real motivation for this mass move to VPNs goes way beyond just convenience. It taps into a much deeper concern about privacy and trust online. It really boils down to two things. On one hand, you've got the annoyance factor. That's that immediate, this is so frustrating feeling. But on the other, much more powerful hand is the privacy factor. This is that deep-seated fear of handing over a picture of your driver's license or passport to some random company that could get hacked tomorrow, with your most sensitive data being sold off to goodness knows who. And this quote just nails that feeling perfectly. These verification companies might throw the word trusted around, but for so many people, that trust just isn't there. The risk of identity theft from some future data breach just feels way worse than any benefit of seeing the content. The supposed cure feels more dangerous than the disease. Okay, so let's look at the actual tools people are using to get around this stuff. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. A whole toolkit has kind of sprung up with everything from simple one-click apps for the average person to really sophisticated self-managed setups for the more techie folks. We can kind of break it down into 3 levels. Step 1 is the most common path. Just download a commercial VPN app. It's quick, it's easy. Step 2, you've got tools like the Tor browser, which is built from the ground up for anonymity. And then you've got Step 3, the full-on DIY approach, setting up your own private VPN on a server somewhere. It shows this amazing range of responses from a simple purchase to deep technical work. And this brings us to the central debate in all of this. Was this massive shift of internet traffic into these encrypted private tunnels just an unforeseen accident, a clumsy misstep by lawmakers, or was something else going on? Was this maybe the plan all along? This question is so important because there are two very different ways of thinking about the real intention behind these laws. And depending on which one you believe, it leads to two radically different ideas about where our digital future is headed. Okay, so one perspective is that this wasn't an accident at all. The argument goes like this. Lawmakers knew perfectly well that adults would just use VPNs, but most VPNs require a credit card and have an 18-plus age requirement. So even if adults are getting around the blocks, the main goal, making it harder for kids to see certain content, is still basically achieved. From that point of view, it's a success. But then, there's a much more cynical view. This viewpoint says that protecting children is just the perfect justification to get these laws passed. The real goal, this argument claims, is to get more control, to enable mass surveillance, to control what people can see and read, and ultimately to shut down services that governments just don't like. So whatever the true intention was, the consequences are turning out to be huge. This trend of each country making its own internet laws is forcing us to ask a really serious question about the future of the web itself. Are we watching the end of a single global network and the beginning of something much more fractured? This could lead to an endgame that a lot of people are really worried about. As more and more countries make their own rules, it becomes impossible for websites to follow every single one. So the logical next step for them is to just start blocking entire countries. This creates what's being called a Splinternet, a series of national internets all walled off from each other, kind of like what we see in China today. And so we're left with this one crucial question. In this big push to make the internet safer, are we accidentally dismantling the very things that made it such a revolutionary tool for freedom and connection in the first place? The promise of safety is a powerful one, but what's the cost? That's the trade-off we're all navigating right now, whether we realize it or not.